Hi, I'm Casey Luaters, and this is Could Be Pretty Cool. My guest today spotted a gap in podcasting infrastructure that nobody had yet filled. And instead of waiting around, she built the thing herself. Aseloka Smith manages databases at a university by day, but podcasting has always been a parallel obsession. When she couldn't find a single place to cross reference which shows had been nominated or won across the major podcast awards like the Ambies, the Signal Awards, the Webbys, she decided to create one. The Audio Awards archive is brand new, built deliberately lean, and already resonating with people in the industry. We talk about what it actually takes to identify a missing piece of infrastructure and go fill it. Today, I am talking to Aseloka Smith, someone who I actually reached out to from the Ladio listserv, Ladies in Radio, after she posted this very fascinating announcement about a project that she's been working on. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But Aseloka, thank you so much for joining us on Could Be Pretty Cool.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, can you start by telling the folks a little bit more about who you are and what you do in the media space?
Yeah, so I am not someone who works full time in podcasting, although I did produce a show back in 2019 called The Colored Girl Beautiful. I am a bona fide podcast nerd. So I love a good story. I love a good podcast. I love beautiful sound design. I'm very interested, and even though I haven't produced anything in a little while, I am always looking to get back into creating and am interested in the podcasting space in the meantime. And I am a podcast nerd and also a data nerd. Since I don't work full time in podcasting, I do have a day job. I manage a database at a university. So I am this sort of unique intersection of interests regarding information, which I think can be very powerful and valuable, and stories, which I think can be really important and creative and fun. And I created this resource to combine those two things that I really love and enjoy.
So, just have to start off with you're definitely our kind of people because media, data, databases, that is what we are all about. So, very fascinated to meet some like minded folks in this space. So, can you tell us a little bit more, as I mentioned, this project that you are working on the side from what you are doing full time? We also love to highlight folks who are doing work to help build community and ecosystems in the creative economy, even if that is not their full time role. But tell us a little bit more about what you've got going on.
Yeah, I started this project called the Audio Awards Archive. And I am someone there are shows that I really love and enjoy and follow. And at some point along the way, I realized that these podcasts can win different types of awards for things. And I would see an announcement every now and again about a particular award, the Ambies or the Signal Awards or the Webbys or what have you. And I realized like there was no place for me to go and see like the cross section for a particular show. I can't see if a show has won a Webby. I can't see if it's also won or been nominated for an Ambie. I can't see if a show has won a Signal Award, if they've also been nominated or won a Webby. There's no good place that keeps all of that information. And that's something that I'm very curious about. And as someone who keeps up with industry information, I subscribe to a lot of newsletters. I know a lot of people who do podcasts full time, and how dynamic this space is. It was just wild to me that I couldn't go anywhere and find out this sort of information. And as someone who is curious and nosy and fairly technical, I just got in my head like, this is a thing that I can do. And I had the idea, and it took me a while to figure out all of the pieces. I've built websites before, I manage data for a living, but doing the two in one, like without the like enterprise level tools that I work with in my day job, because I don't got that kind of money. I don't got any enterprise level money. But I knew there was some kind of way. It took me a while to figure out how to connect all the dots. Like, how do I create a website that shows what will essentially be an immense amount of information without pulling my own eyes out and entering all of it in manually one by one? And there is still some manual entry that has to happen, but there are pieces of it that I can do more efficiently, more programmatically. But once I did figure it out, I just thought, one, I was really worried because I am a data nerd. This sort of thing tickles me pink. I was like, does anybody even care about this at all? Because it's not like I had people I was talking to every day where we were commiserating about this specific problem. I mentioned it to a few folks. They were like, oh, that would be cool, but no like real enthusiasm. And I just decided to go for it without much interest. Not that people were like completely uninterested, but no one was clamoring for this. Nobody asked for it. And so when I got it up and running, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'm going to put this on the listserv and see if there's any interest at all. Put my little mailing list up in case somebody's interested and see what happens. And it turns out like there were several people who thought that this was an amazing idea. And I got a handful of folks who signed up for my mailing list. I got a ton of responses from people saying, I have been wanting a way to do this and I didn't know how. And I was just blown away. I'm not saying like 50 people emailed me, but I probably got like maybe 15, 18, which is an amazing response to me. So yeah, this is all brand new. I'm just at the very beginning of this project and I'm really excited about it. I'm along for the ride. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm hoping that I've got some good structure in place to keep it sustainable. I'm working on securing that. I'm planning to send out an email update soon that kind of outlines some of that, but I'm trying it out and we'll see where it leads me.
So that spirit of, I've never done this before. I don't know who might be interested in this, but I think that there's a need. I'm going to do, what I can, make a version of this that is manageable for me, and you didn't go out and spend thousands of dollars of the infrastructure and just putting it out there. That is the ethos of could be pretty cool. Like having that first spark and being like, you know what? I don't know what this could be, but you know what? It could be pretty cool. So that is exactly the spirit that we like to champion. And 15 to 18 responses is incredible.
Yeah.
It shows you that you have traction. It shows you that folks are paying attention and grateful for this tool to be in the world now. And so if you're looking into, I don't know, anywhere from the next 6 months to a year of what you want this tool to be or how you want people to engage with it. I know you're still in the early stages of building it, but do you have any thoughts of, by this time next year, I hope that we're doing this?
Yeah. So what I'm focused on right now is getting all of my data sets entered. The primary purpose of the website is to keep track of awards and nominations as they come. Obviously, that's like an ongoing thing. I started off with the Ambies and the Black Podcasting Awards. So the site launched with Ambies 2026 and BPA 2025. Adding in historical data is very important because I want this to be like, I want people to go in and click on a podcast and find information. So getting that historical data set built up is my primary goal. And then alongside that, getting the traffic to the site is my other goal, because this isn't going to work if people aren't using it. And people won't use it if there's no information. So that's what I'm working on now is the backlog of data. I have 2 additional data sets added, and I'm hoping to add a third in the next couple of weeks since the site has launched. And that's just what I'm focused on to make sure that there's meaningful information available, especially since the historic data is static. That's not going to change, but it will add to the value of the site greatly. So I want to establish it in the podcasting world as a meaningful resource for anyone who's curious, for anyone who is in the industry. I want it to be the go-to, like, let me look up, could be pretty cool and see what's there. And I want people to be able to rely on what they get. At this point, this is all human curated. It's not like AI generated. I'm not asking an LLM model to input all this information, primarily because as someone who works in technology, I know that AI models lie, they hallucinate, and I want to make this reliable. Also, I think it's fun to put all this together. I think it's really fun and interesting, and I want to be a part of it. I want to know everything about how it all fits together. I want to put those pieces together. I want to create each one of those pieces and assemble them myself. And building that foundation is key. And then building the audience will be really important to sustaining the site over time. I didn't go out and spend thousands of dollars, but I also am spending money to provide this resource. And I want at some point for it to be able to sustain itself. I've built it in a way that I think will at least facilitate that, and we'll see how things go long term. But specifically, I'm really hoping that because I'm not storing all of the information directly on the website, that I can keep my costs reasonable and keep my site lean. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think this just goes to show in an industry like podcasting, which I guess is a formal industry, maybe 10-ish, 15-ish years old, how much infrastructure still needs to be built for the industry, and how many opportunities for not just a lot of folks, they see the hosts and the talent and they're like, oh, that's the podcasting industry. No, on the back end, there are so many opportunities for folks to identify gaps, just as you have, and say, you know what? There needs to be a tool for this.
Yeah. As someone who works in a university, and so my job is I build processes for people, for departments. I build a system that will work for their process. And I see how important it is to have a process in place. And so much of podcast creation is like willy-nilly. And there have been some beautiful things that have been created, but whether or not something can be sustained really often depends on that structure. I did not have a good structure in place for my show when I launched it in 2019. And that's why I'm not producing it right now. I know this firsthand. But I think it's important to put those steps in place so that the thing that you want to put out into the world can sustain itself. And that sort of thing really is interesting and fascinating to me. And I'm gonna get it together one of these days. And I will produce a show that doesn't make me pull my hair out.
Well, Aseloka, data nerd to data nerd, media advocate, I'm very much so looking forward to the growth of your platform, your database. I'm curious to know, and again, you're still in the early stages, when it comes to potentially seeking funding later for this project. Is this something that you would be looking to pitch for, like pitch competitions? Are you looking for potential sponsors from the industry? Maybe some of y'all are listening who might be like, oh yeah, I could put my name on that and make sure this is growing. Any thoughts there?
I'm still very early in this. One of the reasons that I want to build up traffic is so that the data of the people coming to the website is valuable, so that I can have some numbers to show sponsors. I'm definitely open to that idea. I would love to partner with some of these awarding organizations. Listen, I will keep your data for you. I will manage it. So that's something that I've thought about. I'm open to. I would love any of that to take place. Right now, I just want it to be the site. I've had these thoughts oh, wouldn't it be cool to highlight shows or in some way, shape, or form? And there's a world where there's a featured section on the website, but I want to make sure that whatever efforts I'm putting in, whether it is building the infrastructure of the site or reaching out to individuals or organizations, it is directly benefiting the bottom line of the site itself. I always want to point back to that source because I think that's where the value lies in the information that I can collect and steward. I want to make sure that the information that I get is kept responsibly, and I don't want to add any unfair advantage or disadvantage. Honestly, like I think anyone who is nominated or awarded, whether you win the award or not, you're on the board. You know what I mean? Like you get your show featured by an organization for some period of time, which puts you that much further in front of another show who doesn't have that. That's not to say that like other shows can't be successful. There's a million examples of that. But I think like there's some value in being able to aggregate and just steward this information well about who has won what awards or what history. There are some shows that stand out to me that maybe don't have a ton of wins, but have a lot of nominations. For so many people to say, your show is worth us promoting, us as an awarding body promoting, like that's saying something. That means something. I would love, one of the things that I'm really hoping to do is to just have some fun stats about like maybe the genres across a particular category. So podcasts of the year is something that is often in an awarding organization's lineup. There's often a podcast of the year. So I think it would be really cool to see what the trend is of the genres where podcasts have won podcast of the year, and to be able to pitch that to maybe an organization who just makes shows, not even an awarding organization. Like this information is information that could be useful to you. And so like partnering with organizations to provide that sort of data, or at the very least being the go-to source for that sort of thing it could be valuable. There could be some value there. I don't know, but it's definitely worth exploring, I think.
I absolutely just love the way that you're thinking about this resource, how it ties into the industry potentially. And I think a lot of folks are going to be paying attention. And so that they can do that, tell us how folks can find the Audio Awards archive, sign up to your newsletter, all the things. How can people find you?
Yeah, the Audio Awards archive is just at audioawardsarchive.com. So you can go there. There's a link to my newsletter. You can also go to audioawardsarchive.com/newsletter-sign-up. That's a direct link. But yeah, that's the main resource is the direct website itself.
We're certainly going to be pushing people to check this out because, again, as you said, the data, even though it may just seem, oh, it's just a listing of what people are doing, like the use case you described, seeing someone who's been nominated a lot. Maybe they need a special thing to take them over the top. I think it's just really almost limitless what this type of resource can potentially do for a still growing industry. And it's 5-10 years from now, we're going to be able to go back to our archive and be like, we had the CEO of Audio Awards Archive. This is going to be the IMDb for podcasting. And we love to see it.
I hope so. Let's cross our fingers.
A few things stuck out with me in that conversation. First, know what you bring to the problem. Aseloka didn't just notice a gap, she happened to have exactly the skills to fill it. The project works because she manages data professionally and cares about podcasting personally. That overlap is what made it feasible to build without a big team or budget. The structure is what makes things last. She made specific, intentional choices about how to store data and keep costs low, so the project could sustain itself over time. How you build something shapes whether it survives. Human curation is a feature. When you're promising reliability, letting an AI hallucinate your data defeats the purpose. Every entry in the Audio Awards archive is hand-curated because the integrity of the information is the whole project. And finally, The Audio Awards Archive is available at audioawardsarchive.com. And you can also head to Could Be Pretty Cool News' Substack for more on building in the creative economy.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Farewell, and may all of your creative endeavors flourish.
Could Be Pretty Cool News is a Could Be Pretty Cool original production. Created, hosted, and executive produced by Casey Lueders. Senior producer is Liz Moore, and supervising sound editor is Trinity Jackson. Our original theme music was composed by Camille Stennis and cover art designed by AJ Johnson. To learn more about Could Be Pretty Cool and discover whatever else we're up to, visit us at couldbeprettycool.substack.com.
Thank you for listening.